Hello guys and welcome back to another FPL video. We are less than 5 days away from the start of the FPL season, so today I decided to do a early tips video. I'll go around how the game works, what I do when I create my draft, and what I find the most important, and how you're going to find the best possible way to suit your style. I will explain each position and what my thoughts are and what are your options. If you want to take any of that advice, you can take it. That is mostly for beginners, but if you are even a seasoned player, some other opinion may persuade you to go in a different direction, but it's completely up to you. As you can see on the top, there is a sub goal of 1.3k. If you are able to make it possible for me, that will be delightful. I'm at 5 subs away from the goal. Let's make it possible before the Gameweek 1 deadline and see how it goes. So we're starting with a blank draft, and let's start explaining what I do in order to build my drafts and what are the strategies that I follow. First of all, for those of you who are new to FPL, this is a template of your team. You have 2 goalkeepers, 5 defenders, 5 midfielders, and 3 forwards. You have to fit them for a maximum of 100 million. It's good to use as much as possible money because there is no use at them in the bank. There are some scenarios where you can save a 0.5 to 1 million, but usually I tend to maximum save 0.5, and most of the times I'm spending that 100 million. You can pick only maximum 3 players per team, so if you want to copy the Arsenal squad or the Manchester City squad, you wouldn't be able to do so, as you have to select only 3 of their players. That's very important, because if you select 3 players from a team and you want to get in a fourth, you have to sell one of the players, so that will cost you extra transfers. The main currency in the FPL League and the FPL game is transfers and points. So points are the most important thing, and if you want to do transfers, you will have to take points. You have 1 free transfer per week, so you are able to do 1 transfer after every week. You can store up to 5 transfers with the new updates from the game, so that will help you prepare for future rotations or something like that. So how I start building my draft, I look at the 100 million and I think what is the most important part of the team. And for me, the most important part of the team is the captain. Captain is a guy that scores double the points in that game week. You have a vice captain, but the vice captain is only in play if your regular captain does not play any minutes at that game. So vice captaincy is important as well, so you have to consider it into that direction. How I decide who my captain is going to be, I follow several things. First of all, the most important thing is that he is a 90-minute player and that he is nailed, because as long as he is playing, he can get points, and that's good. I'm going regularly for the talismanic player from a team. So for example, Palmer from Chelsea is a talisman, Ivan Toney from Brentford is a talisman. Talisman is a guy that around the game is circled around him, and he is most probable to score some goals. Another thing that I add into consideration is the penalty taker from the team. So if the team penalty taker is a talisman, for example, like Haaland, Salah, Palmer, like mentioned, even Son, I go for it. There is hardly any time when the talisman is not the penalty taker, but for Ollie Watkins' case, for example, last season, he was their talisman, everything was going throughout him, and he wasn't on penalties. So yeah, he's the talisman, but he didn't take penalties. I'm going for talismans that are taking penalties. I can make an exception and go, for example, for Ollie Watkins because he is so regularly scoring, but I prefer captaincy players. How I decide which talisman on penalties I should take, I focus on the best teams. Liverpool, Arsenal, City, Spurs, Chelsea, Manchester United, all of those great teams are regular captains, or if there is a pretty good fixture for one of other options, I go for them. For example, this time around, Isaac is a very probable option to go for as a captain, as he faces Southampton at home. How I decide who has the best fixture, I follow the fixture difficulty rating. For example, Arsenal have a game against Wolves at home. That is considered a good game because Arsenal at Emirates are amazing and they tend to do very well. So talismanic player from them is Saka. Saka is a great captain option, for example. The same goes for Liverpool, City, Spurs, Newcastle United, Chelsea, all of those great teams that are with a lot of goal scoring potential, and their captains play pretty well and they're good to return points. How I tend to decide my captain, most probably I follow a player that is playing against the bottom side team. When we begin the season, we don't know who the bottom sides are, but we know which sides have come up from the championship, and those are the target player teams that I target. For example, for the first week, Spurs, Liverpool, and Newcastle play the newly promoted side, so my captain is going to be from one of those three sides. I'm going for a Liverpool captain, as Salah as a player has been proven in the Prem. Isaac and Son are the other two options that I would consider, but my captain for game week 1 will be Salah. If I can afford him, I will go for him. If you want to go without Salah and you don't like him and you feel like you can invest money somewhere else, you can pick Isaac or Son. They're good captains as well. When I build my team for game week 1, I don't only follow game week 1 as a captaincy options, because I don't want to make a transfer in order to bring in captain. As already mentioned, the captain is the most important thing, and if you have the best captains for the following week, you are already settled and you can go and look for something else that is not as important. So for the second week, the players that play the newly promoted sides are Fulham. Next up is Manchester City, and the last team is Nottingham Forest. So from Fulham and from Forest, I'm not going to get a captain, but there is a home fixture for Manchester City against Ipswich, a newly promoted side. So who the best player is from their team? Erling Haaland, of course, and he is going to be my captaincy option in game week 2. There are other ways, so let's put captain option in game week 1. This, by the way, is FPL.team site. You can go there. This is not the real game, have in mind, but that is how I prepare my drafts. I look at the future fixtures. As game week 2, you're going to see he's my captain, and now I'm pretty settled at how it's going to go the first 2 weeks. So I have Salah for the first, Haaland for the second. Then when I look at the third fixtures, so Aston Villa face Leicester, Brighton face Aston Villa face Leicester, Fulham faces Ipswich, and who faces Leicester? That is Crystal Palace. Those teams do not scream a lot of points, so then I tend to look at different fixtures. Arsenal against Brighton, not too amazingly. Aston Villa is an option for Watkins, but he's also too expensive and he is not known if he is on penalties, so I might be hesitant to go there for now. So in game week 3, who faces? So no, Leicester, Aston Villa faces Leicester, Brentford faces Southampton, and Fulham faces Ipswich. So yeah, none of those scream too much at me. Other teams that I consider weaker and targetable are Bournemouth, but yeah, they're playing Everton. Everton, still not a good team to be targeted. After that, it's maybe Forest, West Ham with a new coach, Fulham, not Fulham, Wolves maybe, and the guy that is going to take the captaincy armband in game week 3 is going to be Erling Haaland once again, so I'm in a good position there as well against West Ham. He has a very high potential to score a lot of points, so yeah, he likes playing against West Ham. So for the first 3 weeks I'm set. After that it's too tricky to decide, because you're going to have some new players emerges, maybe some injuries happen, maybe a team of the ranks of Forest in game week 4 or Brentford become way too harder or way too easier, so the things are going to change. So next question you're most probably going to ask: if you're picking Salah for only 1 week captaincy, why are you going with him? Can you not save money? You can go with Son, you can go with Isaac, but in my opinion the best captain option for game week 1 is Mohamed Salah, as he is performing amazingly well in game week 1. Always he has been the only player in the league with over 200 points in the FPL world for 7 seasons in a row, so I wouldn't go against Salah, and I wouldn't be betting for him not to score. Ipswich are a new side. Liverpool are playing too well in the preseason. I know preseason is not that important, but yeah, it looks well. He's a little bit on the touchline, but penalties and coming from the right and cutting inside is a good trade for him. So a lot of options are going his way. And in my opinion, if you want to save money from Salah, you can go for Isaac, who has Southampton at home, and at home Southampton are still a target for a Newcastle team, and Isaac has been amazing at home. So we're set with the captains. We've used a lot of our budget. I know that most players do not want to go for Salah and Haaland. For me, I'm going with them because that's an easy transfer to whoever the hell I want from midfield or from attack if they do not perform. But for the first 3 weeks, I'm believing especially in Haaland because he will be my captain in 2 of the weeks. You can even add him as a captain option against Chelsea. But all we know, Ipswich for Liverpool is going to be an amazing fixture. Now, the thing I do next is to decide the goalkeeper and the defensive department because I want to know how much I'm going to spend willingly, and then I move to the forward line, seeing who I want, what I want, and then fill up the defense with the rest of it. So let's start in goalkeeper's position. So with a goalkeeper, you have several options. One of the options is to go for an expensive keeper, meaning over 4.5, so being 5 or 5.5. Those keepers tend to play for better teams, better defensive sides, and those sides tend to keep a lot of clean sheets. This season there are a lot of changes to the bonus point system, and those changes are hurting the goalkeeper's bonus points, so I don't see them getting as many points as last season. So still a goalkeeper is going to get the points for saves, the points for clean sheets, and if they save a penalty they will get points, and if they score a goal they will get a lot more points than before. But still, that's not for me. So the option is to go for an expensive keeper. You pick your poison here. You can go for Raya, you can go for Alisson, you can go for Pickford, you can go for Martinez, you can go for whoever the hell you want, and you can go for a 4.0 option from another team because the better sides, most of them do not have a 4.0 option. For example, 4.5 for Ramsdale and then added to Raya. Vicario has a 4.5 keeper. Alisson has a 4.5 keeper. The City keepers are both 5.5, so a little bit tricky to decide what your reserve goalkeeper is going to be. Your goalkeeper is going to get onto the field only if your starting goalkeeper is not playing any minutes. So have that in mind. Be prepared about that. Goalkeeper reserve is almost never an option. When you go for a 4.5 keeper, there is a big chance for you to only go for a 4.5 and then a 4.0, or you can go and pick a 4.5 rotation pair. So rotation pair is a pair that you want to follow good fixtures. For example, teams that play at home against a weaker side and then play away to a harder side, and they rotate pretty well with another keeper. So for example, a good example for a rotation is, let's pick Brentford because they have a 4.5 keeper. Now we need to find a team that has good fixtures around the hard fixtures for Brentford. So for example, Chelsea are a good option. If you go for a Crystal Palace keeper, you can go for maybe Nottingham Forest. So you pick them and each week you decide who to play. This is an okay strategy, but if you have to guess, it's not that good. Last year I went with a rotation pair and I never got the better keeper onto the field. I was playing, for example, Nottingham Forest keeper for a Sheffield United fixture, and I was avoiding the Everton keeper because he had, let's say, Spurs, and against Spurs he did better than my Forest keeper against Sheffield. So yeah, I tend not to do that. So my goal here is to save as much money with the reserve goalkeeper, and I go for a keeper. Have in mind that if you go for a keeper from a team that you want to own at least one more player, it's going to be tricky because the way that the game works, if you pick three players like I already suggested to you, if you pick three players from a team and one of those players is the reserve goalkeeper, you will not get him playing. So for example, I tend to pick a goalkeeper from either a newly promoted side or from a team that I'm not willing to spend a lot of money investing in their players. For example, I'm not going to pick any other Wolves players, and Bentley gets the notch here. I know it's a worse fixture run, so I'm going to pick him as a placeholder, and then I go for a 4.5 keeper. Let's go for Henderson, who is in my real side. and who I'm willing to pick. And for me, that is the most suitable strategy. You can go for an expensive keeper, and that will of course change the defense, but that's how I'm willing to start building my team. Going into defense, now you have to know that there are four type of defenders. So there are defenders that make good attacking returns. There are some defenders that their team play pretty well in defense and they return clean sheets. There are people that are returning good attacking returns and good defensive returns. So those are the gems that they're looking for. And there are people that are not returning anything, so those are the people you want to avoid. I would recommend focusing most on players who return well defensively and offensively, and players who return well offensively, because defensive returns are always decided by a chance most of the time. Like if you are a good defense but a rebound happens or something happens, it's gone. But if you are a good offensively, that's a solid team. There are exceptions to that place. Maybe your rotation pair is not up to too good, but still I choose to pick more attacking players. The usual thing is that the fullbacks are more attacking because they join attack either for a cross or for a long shot, while center backs are good for set pieces, so they can be considered good offensively. For example, a defender from Crystal Palace who is called Andersen has scored 2 goals last season and he's a center back, while fullback, for example, from their team like Munoz hasn't scored a goal yet. So yeah, it's considered that Munoz is more attacking. He's getting into dangerous opportunities, but he is not scoring yet. So it's a 50-50 solution. Generally, the best players to go for are from the top three sides: Liverpool, City, and Arsenal. Those are the top three defensive sides with several attacking potential there. For example, Saliba today played a fixture against Lyon, scored a friendly. Gabriel went and scored as well. Ben White has been very, very attacking. On Liverpool side, Trent is well performing. Van Dijk is solid and he has been ever present. Tsimikas is an option to begin the season with. That's not 100% sure because Robertson is already fit and he is getting up to speed, but most probably for game week 1 it will come too early for him. Manchester City present defenders like Guardiola, Walker is here, and he is not a bad option. But those defenders, as you've most probably seen, are expensive, so you cannot afford to pick too many of them because that will hurt your team up front. The thing I am used to do is pick a solid defensive option that is playing too well defensively and too well offensively. So for example, I'll go with Saliba. This is not my real draft, but let me showcase to you how I plan to do it. So we're done with Saliba. Next up, there are other teams like Fulham, like Crystal Palace, are such a team. Newcastle are such a team that are solid defensively. Spurs can be set to some extent. Villa can be added to some extent here. For now, those are the teams that I consider into that bracket that you can pick defenders from, and they're going to return too well. They have cheaper options. They're not that sure for the clean sheets, but they are okay for clean sheets and they're good for attacking returns as well. So for example, player that I want to own for sure is Pedro Porro. Pedro Porro is a defender who has been the most attacking player into the league from defensive point of view last season, and he's too good to miss. 5.5, pretty good returns, solid fixture. It's good to look at fixtures. So Leicester, Everton, okayish fixture either for clean sheet and for an attacking return. Saliba not too well fixtures, but Liverpool, City and Arsenal are fixture proof by the looks of it. From last season, you can get clean sheets in any game and they can score in any game. So I consider them playable each time when they are fit and they're not suspended. So that's what the defense looks for now. I spent a lot of budget there, like 11.5. So in order to balance it, I for sure go for a 4.0 defender. That is a thing that I would recommend always. The bench is not giving you points. Only the players starting in your lineup are the ones giving you points. And if you are going for a player that is staying on the bench and it's not worth using a lot of money, the thing I tend to do is to go cheap on the bench because they are playable options, but not too amazing. Like I can get some returns from them, but nothing too major that I'm sad for benching them. So I tend to pick a 4.0 defender. There are several options. I would recommend going for several ones. So one of them is Barco. he is a Brighton player. I don't know how he nailed is going to be after the deadline passes and after the transfer window ends, but he is a solid option. Harwood Bellis from Southampton is a great option, but I tend to go for Ben Johnson. He is a new guy for Ipswich. They are playing in a 5-back formation, so he's considered a wing back. They are not going to keep a lot of clean sheets, but he is as attacking as it gets. So he is more into the lower point of bracket attacking, but not good defensively. He's almost at the bracket at not good attacking and not good defensively. I'm going for him because he is only an emergency option and he's not going to play into my lineup. Now we are done with the defense template, and now it's time to build more in attack and just fill in the defense with what's left with the money. What I tend to do for the attackers is I tend to follow either talismanic players from teams who are not going to be captain options for the start, but still are talismanic, take penalties, everything goes through them, and they're good options. And I tend to put them into my squad if they have a good fixture run. For example, if you're looking for a talismanic player from West Ham, let's say, that being Jarrod Bowen, they face Villa, Palace, City, Chelsea in the first 5, which is not a good fixture run. Wolves talismanic player, who is most probably going to be Cunha, face Arsenal, Chelsea, Newcastle, Villa, Liverpool, and City in the first 8, which is almost as bad as it gets. So you go for players like, for example, Newcastle, who face Southampton, Bournemouth, and Wolves. So 3 teams in the first 5 that are reasonably easy for a fixture. Fulham are not too much of a team to be afraid of for Newcastle, so the only bad fixture is Spurs, and Spurs are not too sound defensively, so I immediately tend to go for a Newcastle player. The best Newcastle player for me is Isaac. He is a captaincy option even in Gameweek 1, so I'm giving him the vice captaincy here. He's not going to get any particular points from that captaincy, but still, he's a very solid player. Ending last season, one of the teams that most impressed me was Crystal Palace. I know that Mateta is not going to start the season. Mateta played in the Olympics until the final, so he's going to get a slight rest and he's going to be eased into the squad. Ulize left, so that's not too good for them, but they brought some other players, and their best player, in my opinion, is still there, and that best player is called Eze. And for me, Eze should be a player that you target. For example, you can go for other talismanic players. For example, for Brentford, that's Ivan Toney. For Brighton, looks like Mitoma. For Chelsea, the expensive player there is, and the best player there is Palmer, but I'm not willing to go for Palmer yet, as Chelsea are not too good. My rule is don't go into new things too much. Like, don't go into new transfers too much, or don't go into new manager tactics too much. Yeah, I make exceptions for some good teams with good players like Liverpool. They're an amazing team. Salah is amazing regardless who is their coach. Maybe the tactics do not suit them, but he can still perform up to par. For example, for that fixture run, which is for the first 4 games, I don't see them not scoring in everyone. So that's too good for me to miss. There are some players that are going to be talismanic, and the club is so not so big, and when they spend big money, that's going to be a player that everything resolves around them. For example, Smith Rowe for Fulham is an option that I might be interested to go for, but for example, let's say Brentford are buying Carvalho from Liverpool. I'm not going there because they have so many attacking options. Next up, Chelsea are signing players like crazy. I'm not picking them as I don't know how they are performing. For example, Manchester United's new forward Zirkzee is not an option for me. Solanke might be a too difficult pick to select because we've seen players moving from team to team and not starting the season ground running. So there are different options, different things to discuss, but yeah, I'm used to going for talismanic players from already settled sides. We know how they play. So that is the core of the team that I'm willing to go. I have 4.0 options around the goalkeeper and the defensive department. I have a solid goalkeeper, I have a solid defense, I have a solid attack. So that is the core, and from here I can start experimenting. I can pick players that are a little bit more out there and not that good. So options. Now we have 3 main attacking options because we for sure need 3 defenders playing, so that means maximum of 7 strikers and midfielders starting, so the 8-1 can be a cheap one. I've not decided yet if I'm going for a 3-5-2 or a 3-4-3. You pick the formation around it and then you select a 4.5 option from there, because even if someone from the forward line is injured, you're going to transfer him out and not rely so much on the 5.0 or a little bit more expensive option. So let's see what else is there. Now, when I'm set with my squad, I tend to go through the fixtures and I tend to look at who has easier fixture run in the first 3 and then in the first 7. How I decided 3 and 7, that is when the international breaks are happening. After game week 3 and after game week 7 we have international breaks, so that means that we need to adjust the squad a little bit there, maybe look at some potential injuries, maybe some potential shenanigans happening. We don't know anything that is going to happen then. Maybe some slight tactic changes are going to happen into the team, someone coming back into the frame, someone getting up to speed, a lot of options. But the thing we know for sure is to target teams in the first 7 weeks, because those are the 3 and the 7 are a good option to look for. Looking at 3 to 7, so for 7, Viewer are having a good fixture run, so Viewer is team to consider. In the first 7, Arsenal are having a good fixture run, so for sure a team to consider. Next up, Bournemouth not so much, Brentford not so much, Brighton not so much to start with. Chelsea have a good potential, so we can discuss. We already have from Palace, Fulham are a team to consider. Next up we have United are a team to consider, semi, though not anything major. Newcastle we already have, but you can double up from good teams. And Forest and Spurs are the last team. So we have around 6 teams to pick from. And Forest and Fulham and Villa have, by the looks of it, a very good potential runs, and we can invest some money. I'm not willing to go into the season without an Arsenal player, so the thing I tend to do is I pick one of their cheap options if I cannot afford Bukayo Saka, who is the most expensive. So for the sake of the video, I'm going to add an option like, let's say, Martinelli, just to have him as a 7.0 midfielder. It's not said that I'm going to go for him, but still he's an option at good price range, and by the looks of it, he's going to start game week 1. Next up, I tend to look at Villa's players, so Watkins, Bailey and Rodgers are going to start the season. So Rodgers is the most likely to end up into my squad, but the first 2 fixtures are hard and I may need to bring in Watkins after that, so I may avoid him by the looks of it. And let's say we'll go for a Fulham player, because they have a new shiny expensive player in the Smith Rowe, so he's going into the side. Next up we can go for Chris Wood, because he's the main striker for Forest, so we can go there. Let's go. Let's see, Wood. And now we have a proper attack, so we're going for a 4.4 option, 4.5 option in midfield. It's Harry Winks who is nailed, and now we have to fill in the defenders. I'm willing to go for a 4.5 players with good fixture run, with solid defense, and with attacking potential. That is Robinson from Fulham. And next up is going to be, last but not least, Hull from Southampton, not Southampton, from Newcastle, because they're attacking and they have a good potential going forward. You can go for someone like Mikulenko, who's too good defensively but not so amazing attacking wise. So it's up to you what your strategy says, but this leaves us with 1 million in the bank. That means that I'm willing to improve a player. Going for a player like Martinelli is hard, because I'm willing to take a risk for one player. So Martinelli is the player I'm taking a risk at. Smith Rowe, Eze, Salah, Haaland, Isaac and Wood are nailed and they're going to be playing in defense. Ho is the defender I'm taking risk at, but I can for sure rely on Saliba, Poro and Robinson every game, so I'm good there. So the option here is to go for Martinelli to keep the Arsenal attacker, or you can do something like changing Martinelli for a 5.5 option that has been good. Let's say Minte from Brighton, who is exciting, and you go for Havertz up front and you still have 0.5 in the bank. Their options, their possibilities, like with this 0.5, it's better to keep it. There is no one that so maybe here you can go for Odegaard, who name I cannot spell here, and here just put in João Pedro, who looks like a starting striker for Brighton. There are several options. Brighton are not the best team offensively. No, mistake. they're not having the best fixture run offensively, so I'm not so willing to go there. But let's say Wood for the sake of it, and then picking, let's say, Martinelli is an option. Gordon is an option, even though that means triple from Newcastle, and I hardly recommend that. But they have such a good fixture run, so that's an option. You can go for cool. You can even go for a player of the ranks of Swanke, who is yet not into Spurs, but then here for a 6.5, you can go for Morgan Gibbs-White. So Gibbs-White, you can go for Bailey, and you have basically all the good teams into your team apart from Arsenal. So that's a little bit questionable. You can go for Declan Rice, who by the looks is on set pieces 6.5. So you have options, you have possibilities. The most important thing, pick a captain, don't spend too much onto the bench, pick solid players that are going to be playing regularly and regular minutes, focus talismans. If you're looking for a differential, go with maximum 2. That's not a differential, but someone that's not nailed. Defense, you decide what type of defenders you prefer and how you see them. But once again, the most important thing is the captaincy option, as those points are doubled, and even a double captain can save your week, while a bad captain and an okay draft may not be enough compared to a good captain and not such a good draft. So yeah, captain options are important. You move around the pieces at them. So yeah, those are my early tips for Game Week 1 draft building. If you enjoy them, drop a subscribe down below, drop a like, drop a comment if you have to ask any questions. I'll be performing several streams during that week, and I hope you join them. So turn notifications on, be prepared for more and more content during the week. There's going to be content going throughout the whole season. So yeah, make that target sub goal possible. Let's reach 1300 subscribers. I'm not that far. Make it possible. And I hope to see you soon on more of my content. But for now, guys, I'll be heading out. Bye.